So we're so delighted to have this program. As I said before, I'm Suzel Stebbins-Collins. I'm one of the members of the initiating group for Transition Dummerston, and the other initiating group members would stand up so that this is always a collective effort. And there's Fred over there, he's standing, and Ken and Jean and Bill and Katie Berg and Margaret Wilson are not here. And this is a really important event for us because, as you know, Transition Dummerston and all of the international transition town movement are really about how do we make this transition from this huge challenge that we're in with climate disruption, with our fossil fuel dependency and fossil fuels being much harder to get and much more destructive in so many ways, and all of the economic instability and the ways those are impacting us. And how we need to make really, really deep, profound changes in order to be resilient and in order to have a positive future. So we're really about building the relationships and making the experiments in systems and finding the new ways that we can live so that we can get to that future. And solar is such a huge part of that, obviously moving away from fossil fuels, but also, as you probably know, it's really a really good investment for jobs, and it's one of the most community-friendly sources there is that people can really be involved in their own power. And we're really fortunate to have people here tonight who are going to talk about this proposal of Solarize Dummerston. And some experts, our own local experts here. Then I will turn it over to William Collins, who's going to introduce everyone else and facilitate from here.
In the interest of time, while the list is going around and the collection model is being circulated, I'd like to say that it's a pleasure to introduce my friends, and in particular my colleague Smokey Howe, Stan Howe, who is the expert electrician and long-term member of the Dummerston Energy Committee. He's going to start with a PowerPoint presentation to give you an overview of the options. What we're facing is new emerging technologies, changing all the time, and options are there. And in order to be a smart consumer, you need to be educated. You need to inform yourself as well as you can about what the options are and what will work for you. And this is a Transition Dummerston meeting is an opportunity to have some folks who are very knowledgeable come together and explain their side of their perspective on the problem of solar energy and how you can utilize their resources and the solar resources in the most appropriate way for you in your home. After Smokey Howe has given his PowerPoint presentation, we'll ask Peter Thorell to speak on community solar. I am asking him to go second because he needs to leave a little bit early. So after his presentation, of course, we'll ask for questions. And following Peter will be Tad Montgomery and Tom Champlain, who will represent Solarize Wyndham, that's Tad Montgomery, and Real Good Solar, that's Tom. That'll be the order. Each presentation will be about 20 minutes. If you have questions, I'm certain that each of the presenters will entertain your questions and be glad to give you as much more information as you need. With no further ado, Stan, Smokey, thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Smokey Howe. As mentioned, I'm on the Energy Committee. My wife Tina and I have lived here in Dummerston for 24 years. We're here on Race Farm Road. Probably many of you know her father, Wayne Emery, used to be the road foreman. And we're living in the house that she grew up in over here. I'm a master electrician by trade, and I'm on the Energy Committee. And we've been studying the Solarize program as it's been presented to us by Tad Montgomery and these other people. I'm by no way an expert on solar. but I put together this presentation, what I understand about it, and give that to you, and obviously Tad and the experts can correct me if I have any information with you that's not right. But, and I have to tell you, I had the nickname before the profession. So, Solarize Dummerston to Community Solar. This, I don't know if you can read this, but this is to support Town Plan Goal number 14, which is to reduce per capita non-renewable energy consumption 40% by 2030 from a 2010 baseline. And as the Energy Committee, we focus on that particular goal in the town plan a lot in the activities that we do, trying to reach that. And solar is renewable energy, so it'll help offset the non-renewables. So it really works towards that goal. So Solarize. Solarize is a program that's actually been sweeping across the country. I believe it started in Oregon. And it's been used a lot just south of here in Connecticut, Massachusetts. It's starting to come into Vermont. Putney is doing it now. I think there's a few other communities in Vermont that are doing it. How would it work? Well, we'd have to form this Solarize team. This hasn't happened yet. We'd have to form a Solarize team, and members from the Energy Committee, maybe we can get an expert from Green Mountain Power to help us. The church, Transition Dummerston, Select Board, School Board, other community volunteers, Planning Commission, Conservation Commission, get members from all these groups together to form a team to work the Solarize process. So the team of volunteers would decide on what the selection criteria would be. And here's some examples of what we might consider. Obviously, pricing is a big part of this. But what components are going to be used, the fact that it uses local jobs should be important to us, maybe made in USA, and all of this is going to have to be weighed, because obviously made in USA is going to change the price point a little bit, so, or local. Some of the vendors offer products not only made in USA, but made very close to us here in Vermont. What the contractor's feedback ratings are and whatnot. So we'd have to come up with this selection criteria for the contractors. And then this team would issue RFPs and get the prices and the criteria from the contractors and evaluate that, interview the contractors, and then we would start publicizing this and using all kinds of grassroots meetings like tonight, workshops and other marketing to get interest in the program. And you'll see as we go on, the more people we can get interested in this, the more powerful it becomes. So once chosen, all those who signed up would use the same contract. That's the way Solarize has been used throughout the country, although there's some talk now about there may be ways to have a couple of options of the contractor, but this team is going to have to figure that out. What are the rules for Dummerston going to be? Because it's done slightly differently in every community that does it. Solarize is an idea, it's a process, but it's flexible. A tiered marketing structure incrementally increases the savings the more people sign up. So that's the real power of this Solarize, is its mass buying potential. If you get a whole bunch of neighbors together to purchase solar panels, you can get them for a cheaper price. And the more people you get involved, the cheaper you can get the panels. And I'll show you a slide that talks more about that tiered pricing. The contractor tracks all potential customers, performs sites assessment, handles all the permitting, installs the systems. As the installations begin, word of mouth generates more interest. There'd have to be a deadline, typically about 9 months out, so that those people sitting on the fence would have to make a decision and get in the program or not. And it would help to ensure those who signed up early receive rebates. So, tiered pricing. If we were only able to get enough people interested to install 25 kW across the town, the price might be something, and these are fictitious numbers, these aren't the real numbers we're going to be dealing with, but it might be something like $375 a watt. If we could get people to sign up to the point that we install 50 kW solar around town, the price would drop. And at 75 it drops further, and at 100 kW it drops further. So you can see the people that signed up early are going to want to be telling their neighbors, hey, you need to put some on your roof, you know, because everybody benefits. The people who signed up early will get a rebate in the price. So the more and more people, as this program rolls on, sign up, the cheaper it gets for everybody. So what other incentives exist? There's a federal tax credit right now, 30% of the price of this system that you can take right off your income taxes. All components in Vermont the components are sold tax-free. The Vermont Renewable Energy Resource Center offers incentives. Consumers can receive 25 cents per watt up to $2,500, or 50% of the installed cost, whichever is less. If it's a school or municipality, they fall into a special category that actually gets $1.25 per watt, because they can't use the federal income tax incentive because they don't have income tax. There's an additional 15 cents per watt incentive from our Renewable Energy Resource Center, up to $350 if your home had an energy audit, and it has to meet a bunch of criteria. I'm not going to list it all up here, but there's certain criteria you have to meet to get that incentive. And right now, one of the biggest incentives is Green Mountain Power. The cost of residential electricity is just over 15 cents a kilowatt hour. But for every kilowatt hour that the solar panel generates, Green Mountain Power will pay you 21 cents. It's called the 6-cent adder. So they pay you more than what you pay for your own electricity in your home. And that's, right now, that is governed by state law. They have to do that, and it's guaranteed for at least 10 years. If the law changes, then it could sunset after 10 years. But right now, I'm told it's guaranteed for 10 years at 6-cent adder, maybe longer. And that extra 6 cents, or that money that the solar generates, can not only be used to pay for the electricity used in your home, but you can use it to pay your service fees and all these efficiency charges that you have on your bill. So if you properly sized a system for your house, you could have a $0 electricity bill in the end. For every megawatt electricity generated, a renewable energy credit is generated. Now, 1 megawatt's a lot for any one person. So if 2010, the average electrical consumption was 7.5 megawatts for the year. So the town of Dummerston collectively could if everybody had solar, could get 7 of these certificates. So it's not a real big deal, but the renewable energy certificates validate that the energy you're using is generated by solar. Businesses, they also can get a 7.2% investment tax credit and depreciate 85% of the cost of the system over 5 years. So for businesses and investors, this is really big. They can pay back the system really quickly. So why would someone want to join this program? You know, maybe you want to support renewable power. If you paid a little more and put in batteries, you could be off the grid and actually have resilience. So when the grid goes down, you'd have your own power source. It's a good return on investment. It supports the goal in the town plan I talked about. And you'll see here in a little bit, it actually will support our school. There's Vermont state incentives. There's a 30% federal tax credit, and you save money on your electricity bills. So if you do it right, you'll have a $0 electricity bill. So for Solarize program, it's typically about a 9-month program to get this ball rolling. We are still in this stage right here. We need to form that steering committee. I'm kind of hoping we generate some interest tonight, and there's some people in this group that might want to be on that committee. And then sometime in the first 1 to 3 months, we issue the RFP. The steering committee selects the contractor, and we start the community outreach, which would happen over the winter months. Get people involved, start getting people signed up, and then eventually, when the first contract is signed, we begin putting, the contractors begin putting solar on people's houses. And then once all the people have signed up, then the final pricing would be finalized, and people who signed up early would get the rebates for that tiered pricing. So what if your house is like this and it sits underneath a beautiful tree where you don't get any solar exposure. Do I still have an option? And the answer is yes. Vermont Community Solar is another program separate from Solarize, but it dovetails nicely with the Solarize program because it still needs that grassroots movement to generate the interest in the community. It has a tiered pricing structure just like the Solarize. And Tad can talk more about that. Peter can talk more about that when he gets up here. But it's basically a solar farm, up to 150 kW, ground mounted. Location not yet to be determined, but preferably somewhere in Dummerston. We find the land. All maintenance and warranty is for 30 years. So when you buy into a solar farm and an inverter dies, you don't have to pull money out of your pocket to replace the inverter. They take care of it. The economies of scale, again, in a centralized location, give us an attractive price, and there's tiered pricing associated with it. Using the net metering program, portions of the farm are credited on your bill. So even though the solar panels aren't on your house, the electricity that the panels you purchase in that farm would be credited on your electric bill at your house. And the marketing would occur as part of the Solarize Dummerston program. So you see where both of these would work together, and you find the people who have good sites to put solar on their house, and you also find the people who are interested in solar but don't have a good site, or maybe just don't want the panels on the roof. Green Mountain Power takes care of all the billing for that net metering, required by law. For those without solar access who just prefer not to have it on their home or in their front yard, you would purchase enough units to cover your electricity needs. So typically if you took your annual electricity bill and divided it by 250, it would tell you how many units you'd have to purchase in that solar farm. Each 1 kW capacity offsets 250 of your annual bill. The unit's starting cost is $4 per watt. So it'd be $4,000 for 1 kW. And it's considered property. If later on you decide you don't want to own those solar panels anymore, you could sell them to somebody else. Pricing starts at $4, goes down by 5 cents per watt for every additional 25 kW that's sold in the farm. So it's very similar to the Solarize, the tiered pricing structure. And the same federal incentives apply that we talked about earlier, with the exception that Sovereign retains the REC certificates. So how would that look? Here's a customer that uses quite a bit of electricity, $1,500 a year, about $125 a month. So if you took that, divided by 250, it means he'd need to buy 6 units in the farm. So 6 kW system, it's $4,000 per kW at the initial, so it'd be $24,000. If we sold all the space in the farm, that price would drop to $22,500. And you get the federal tax credit, 30% comes off of that. The cost of the system's $7,200. So your net cost is $16,800 or $15,750 if we sold 125 kW in the farm. Payback would be in about 10 years. And I went online to a loan calculator. I'm no mathematician or a banker by any means, but for the $15,750 loan, if you paid it over 15 years at 4.5%, it's a $121 monthly payment. So you've just replaced your electricity bill with a loan payment. But after 15 years, you've paid that loan payment off, and now you're getting electricity for free. If you did it for 10 years, obviously the monthly value would be a little bit higher, but you could pay it off sooner and really gain more benefit. So how does Vermont Community Solar work? In exchange for the efforts of the team and the support of the town, Sovereign has proposed a unique arrangement that benefits the school directly. 10% of electricity donated by the system, they donate to a charity or a local municipality. And in this case, we've approached the school, and the school is interested. We talked to them Tuesday. Nothing's been finalized yet, but they're very interested in this. So we donate to the school to offset their electricity use. So net results about 20% reduction in the electricity bill for the school. The school could decide to purchase even an additional 10 kW from the farm, just like you and I can purchase, which would offset their bills even further. And one thing I thought that really is kind of cool is the school children would have live access to the data from that farm. I can picture them going on field trips out to the farm, and maybe there's one grade that's in charge of doing a report to the rest of the school once a week or something on what the farm has generated, and the school children would learn about solar. So it's kind of a side benefit, but it's pretty neat. So this is a quote I found that I think is appropriate.
Well, thank you, Smokey. I don't feel like there's much left for me to say. But that never stopped. Stephen. Yeah, so my company is Sovereign Solar. We're based in Westminster. Somewhere in that slide projection, there was a picture of some of the ground mounts that we built. They do something special. They're manually seasonally adjustable, so we can tilt them up toward the sun in the summer and get more harvest because the panel is closer to perpendicular to the sun. But especially good in the winter, they can tip back up more toward vertical, and that lets snow slide off the panels. Solar panels work better in the winter than they do in the summer because when it's colder, they're more efficient. And so the worst thing is to watch solar panels covered with snow on a bright sunny day the day after a snowstorm. So we've kind of avoided that. I have a friend, maybe you guys know Prentice Smith in Brattleboro. He has enough money that he doesn't need to be doing this, but last winter I saw him up on a ladder on his house with a big roof rake, raking the snow off the solar panels because he couldn't stand the thought of them not generating energy in the middle of the winter. So what we're doing is we're building 1-acre solar farms, and we're putting them in places where they get sun exposure all day long, which is rarely true on any residence. There's either trees, dormer, shading, some problem that keeps a residence from having an ideal location. And even if it is ideal, the slope of the roof may not be ideal, and even if it is ideal, you can't change the angle from the summer to the winter. So there's some pretty good reasons to put solar panels out in a field rather than to put them on your roof. I'm really happy if anybody wants to put solar panels on their roof. That's great. For us, the more solar panels that we can get installed, the better. But we're specializing in these community farms, which give people an opportunity to buy solar and get essentially the same benefits that you would get if you put the solar panels on your own house. You get a couple of more benefits with community solar. One of them is that we give you a 30-year all-inclusive maintenance contract. That means if anything goes wrong with the system in the next 30 years, it's our job to take care of it, not yours. And the way we guarantee that is by reserving 20% of the farm that we build so that the income from that 20% is put in escrow to take care of the maintenance of the farm. So it doesn't depend on Sovereign still being here 30 years from now for that farm to be taken care of. The farm is actually taking care of itself. So the structure that we have, we'll build this farm and we'll sell panels in the farm. And we will retain ownership of all the rest of the equipment, the racks, the inverters, the wiring, the connection to the internet, to the grid. That shows you where I've been. So all you own is the panels, but because you do, you can get the 30% federal tax credit yourself on the ownership of the panels. And we will retain the rest of the field. In addition to the 20% of the field that we reserve for the maintenance and ongoing operations of the field, we reserve 10% of the field to make a donation to a local organization. We feel like community solar really wants to benefit the community as a whole as well as the individual people in the community. So we're trying to create a financial model that takes care of those needs as well, that reaches out to help the community meet its needs. As Smokey mentioned, we do retain ownership of the renewable energy credits in the farm. And the reason that we do that is that it enables us to sell these at about $1 a watt less expensive than we would have to if we didn't keep the renewable energy credits. And to anybody else, renewable energy credits essentially equal bragging rights. You can brag and say, we generated this much renewable energy. But to you guys, when you're buying into the farm, those renewable energy credits turn into money. They actually lower your price, your purchase price, to the point that we can offer panels in the solar farm at a price where you can go to the bank and borrow the money, and as Smokey was saying, your payments to the bank are the same as your payments to Green Mountain Power used to be. So you're not really talking about making an investment. What you're talking about is taking money that you're already spending on electricity and spending it at the bank rather than spending it at Green Mountain Power. And if you spend it at Green Mountain Power, you'll do it forever. And if you do it at the bank, one day it's going to stop. And when it stops, you'll have energy that's free. Not only that, you start making money right away because our experience has been electricity rates go up. Green Mountain Credit Union is offering fixed rate financing for the purchase of these panels, which means that as the electricity rates go up, your payments stay the same. So 5 years from now, your neighbor is going to be paying a nickel more for electricity than he was now, and you're going to be paying the same that you're paying now. So there's some significant financial benefits. We get some significant financial benefits because a significant part of the cost of putting in a solar installation, and Tom can talk about this easily, is starting it up and taking it down. Getting into the job, setting everything up, getting up there, getting going, cleaning it all up, connecting it up to the grid. We only have to do that one time in a 150 kilowatt farm. If we were doing 5 kilowatt home installations, we would have to do it 25 times. So that savings, and combined with the economics of what we can save by buying, in bulk, combined with the fact that these renewable energy credits, as you mentioned, a person who bought a house and put solar panels on the house would generate about $400 a year in renewable energy credits. But in order to sell those credits, their production has to be verified by an independent verifier. And the independent verifier charges about $400 a year. So you generate $400 worth of credits and you pay $400 to get them verified, they're not worth anything to you. But in this community solar farm, we can amalgamate all of the renewable energy credits, and so they do become worth something. And so we can use that to lower the price of the buy-in on the panels. We're offering a tiered discount structure so that as more people buy into the solar farm, the price for everybody goes down, just like Tom will do with Real Good Solar. It's been proven to be a really good marketing technique. People like to get a discount. They like to have their friends and neighbors getting a discount. And it also gives people a reason to make a decision. And we found that the biggest obstacle to getting people into community solar is inertia. Everybody we talk to says, that's a great idea. Why wouldn't everybody do it? Right. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you take your money and pay it? I mean, the loans at the Green Mountain Credit Union are unsecured. You don't have to put your house on the line. They're secured by the net metering credits that the panels generate. Here's the deal to the bank. They go, oh, let's see, you owe me $250 a month on this loan. If you stop paying me on the loan, I'm going to take the assignment of the net metering credits, and they'll pay me $250 a month. I don't have any risk, says the banker. So he's willing to secure the loan just with the net metering credits. So you can see there's really no reason why everybody wouldn't do it. But not everybody does it. And one of the biggest reasons is inertia. It takes making a decision. It takes going out and deciding that you'll make the contact with the bank, that you'll make the transition. We've even made a relationship with Green Mountain Power where they'll let you, I don't know why, they'll let you buy into our community solar program and pay for it on your electric bill. So your electric bill goes away and your loan bill comes in and you're paying it on your electric bill, and they'll send the money over to Green Mountain Credit Union. So talk about making it easy. But having the tiered pricing structure as part of the Solarize program, having a deadline as part of the Solarize program really makes a difference. People like to know that I've only got to this point to make this decision. It focuses the mind. So we're really happy to be part of this program. We've heard that down in Northampton, they did a Solarize Northampton program, and I think 106 households, something like that, signed up, but more than 200 households were turned away because they didn't have a good site. And so by community solar participating in this program in Dummerston, you'll get a bunch of people who want to put solar on the roof. but probably twice as many of those people won't have a good site. And so now we have an option where we can say, come join the community program. And what we're doing for the school is we're going to give them the benefit of the donation of 10% of the output of the farm. So the school's electric bill will go down between $4,500 and $5,000 a year right away. And because they have a bigger electric bill than that, they're going to let us put $10,000 more worth of credits on their bill, which they'll buy from us. And that's what gives us the money to do the operation and maintenance of the farm. That's how we turn the net metering credits into the cash that we'll need. So we're really looking forward, hopeful that Solarize Dummerston program comes up. We haven't found a site in Dummerston yet. So we're looking forward to people helping us find a wide open acre where the electric uptake we can find out from Green Mountain Power is big enough to let us put 150 kilowatts. If we can't find that, we can do 2 sites, one 100 and one 50 or 2 75s. Not really a problem for us because we're really local. So that kind of help will come from the program. Neighbors talking to neighbors, building up some enthusiasm in the program will also help. So we think it's a great program, and we're looking forward to working with the Solarize program, to working with Transition Putney, because I guess you all know that even though we all kind of have a sense that the life that we're living is unsustainable, the amount of fossil fuels that we're burning and putting the carbon in the air is not only unsustainable, but in the last 6 months there's been a lot of data that says that the situation, well, over the last 20 years, since people started saying, since some weirdos started saying that climate change was inevitable from this carbon in the atmosphere, there were a lot of predictions about how bad it would be. And even the climate change advocates were taking the lowest end of those predictions. Well, it's turning out that the reality is much closer to the higher end of all of those predictions than we thought. It means the situation's a lot worse. We have a lot less time than we thought. And there's not a lot that we can do to Mobil, Exxon, and Shell. But there is stuff that we can do locally here, and it actually matters. I believe it matters. Not just matters on how many kilowatt hours of energy are generated from solar panels instead of fossil fuel. Because face it, the amount we're going to generate in Dummerston isn't going to make a drop in the bucket of what has to happen in the world. But one of my favorite quotes from my spiritual teacher, Sri Aurobindo, is to think that you can change the conditions of life without changing the consciousness that gave rise to those conditions is insanity. And as we make the choices here, we change the consciousness that we are carrying by making physical choices in our life, and the effect of that is unmeasurable. There. I got time for questions. Yeah.
Do you try to buy the land, or do you lease it?
We would be happy to buy the land, but Vermont zoning makes purchase of 1 acre a rare event.
Right.
And so in the end, what we've been doing usually is leasing. A farmer, somebody who has land that's now, in hay, we can pay significantly more for a land lease than they can get from the value of their hay. Problem is they need to give up control of the land for a long time. And so it usually needs to be somebody who is either economically marginal, where that amount of money really makes a significant difference for them, or somebody who's really committed to supporting renewable energy. Yeah.
One of the criticisms I've heard, or one of the problems I've heard about from more and more people going solar is who's going to pay to maintain the grid? Is that responsibility just going to fall to the people who are still on the grid in the normal way?
Mm-hmm.
Is there some way in the pricing scheme that you have described that takes care of that little problem?
There isn't a way to take care of that, no problem. The grid does have to be maintained. The Vermont legislature just decided that the economics of the situation can allow 15% of the people in Vermont to go solar with its net meter program, and that the savings from them of not having to generate new power plants, of having solar energy available at peak times in the summer, that the economic benefit of that will offset the cost of paying that 6-cent bonus adder to people who go solar. After we get above 15%, it gets harder and harder because the number of people who are paying to maintain the grid is getting smaller and the number of people who are receiving the benefit keeps getting larger and larger. The legislature has decided that at the end of 2016 they're going to scrap all of the net metering legislation and rewrite the law because they realize that the unpredictability of what the federal government is going to do about the 20% tax credit, the 30% tax credit, I mean, it's scheduled to sunset. It would be insane to allow it to sunset. They have shown that the net economic effect of the 30% tax credit is positive for the government. They make more money by giving that 30% tax credit because they get taxes on all the downstream events. You'll get a 30% tax credit, but I'm going to pay 30% or more tax on the money I earned from building the program. Everybody I buy from is going to pay tax on all the stuff that they manufactured. And when you add up all the taxes they get paid, if the 30% incentive actually makes a system happen that wouldn't have happened otherwise, it's a positive benefit to the government. So they should keep that program in place because it's making, solar is the fastest growing industry in America. And it definitely keeps it there. But if you look at the tenor of the national legislation, it doesn't look like it's going in that direction. And I'll be with you in just a second. So at the end of 2016, the legislature is going to rewrite all of this, hopefully understanding where the market has gone. And they'll have to address that question. One way or another, the people who are supporting the grid, we'll have to make a decision. Do we as a state want to support renewable energy? Is it worth it? There was a bonus that was scheduled a couple of years ago, and Peter Shumlin eventually backed off from it. It was going to cost everybody in the state, I think, 5 cents a month on their electric bill. And somebody said, we can't do that, that's a new tax, and you promised no new taxes. And he actually had to back away from that 5-cent bonus, which would have made a big difference for the implementation of solar in the state. So we'll have to decide, do we have the spine to make the economic decisions that will be necessary to meet that goal that this state has of 90% of its energy from renewable sources by 2050? That's going to take some will to make it happen.
Just a couple of clarification questions. Did you say that solar panels on the roof, you cannot do that tilty thing?
I don't know of anyone who is. There's a problem if you put solar panels on the roof and you tilt them up, and the winter snow comes in behind them and drives them off the roof.
Okay. And you also talked about the different savings from the solar farms as opposed to individual homeowners having panels, and you said that those savings can then be passed on to the homeowner in terms of pricing that you set.
Yeah.
You said they can be, and I'm just wondering, are they?
Yeah.
And is that so? That's built into your pricing structure.
Yeah, you'll see
About it?
our pricing structure starts at $4 a watt.
Yeah.
The people that I know of who are doing on roofs will start somewhat less than that, but our $4 a watt covers a 30-year maintenance contract. We figure that if it's 20% of the farm and 20% of $4 is 80 cents, that maintenance contract is worth 80 cents. That brings our price down to $3.20.
Yeah. Okay. I was just.
So yeah, we're doing.
I heard your wording, and I was just
Right,
saying,
could
okay,
be passed on.
can
Yeah,
or do?
I'm trying not to be sneaky here, but no, it is directly passed on.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hi.
Another question, can fixed solar panels, not on the roof, but on the ground, be retrofitted to tilt and adjust for the season?
I would have to see how they were actually attached to the ground to see whether that retrofit would be possible. It wouldn't be really easy given what most people's solar panels, how they're usually mounted, but it might be possible.
Tom and I are going to tag team this. It's not rehearsed. And jump in if you have questions. I'm Tad Montgomery. I am an ecological engineer in Brattleboro. year and a half ago, the Wyndham Regional Commission organized a forum up at Stratton for energy committees and energy coordinators on community solar systems, techniques, processes. A bunch of us went, and one of the things that they talked about was Solarize. I had never heard of it before, and I just got set on fire. And I said, I want to do this in Wyndham County, in as many towns as possible. The way it usually works in most other places is that a state finds a pot of money, then hires a coordinator, and that coordinator sort of makes the Solarize happen. Vermont doesn't have that pot of money, hasn't made that commitment yet. So I'm coming at this from the for-profit side, encouraging towns like Dummerston, Putney, Brattleboro, Westminster, Wyndham, I've talked with many, Whitingham, Wilmington, Guilford, to do this program. And we are asking towns to consider it, and then towns, like what is happening here with Dummerston, have the complete right to then put the program out to bid and to ask for proposals from companies like RGS Energy that I'm working with, or like the local companies, and just decide how you all want to do it. For me, it's not, I mean, I'd love it if we get hired to do this, but more important is that it just gets done. We think we're very confident in the product we offer, but we'll get projects. We're not worried about that. Making it happen is the most important thing. One of my companies is called Home Energy Advocates. I help homeowners to think through how to do major energy retrofits. Everything from what to do with your boiler to window quilts, solar, heat pumps, insulation, weatherization. What was I going to say? There was a point to that, and I lost it. Back up. I have a client, a restaurant in Brattleboro, and they first started thinking about solar in 2008, so just 6 years ago. And they got a number of bids. And the price range that they got for solar at that point was between $8 and $13 per watt. So average cost was maybe $11 per watt. And what we're looking at now is, you just heard Peter Thurl offer solar for $4 a watt. And what Solarize can do is drop it down to perhaps as low as $3.50 or $3.40 a watt. So there is a huge drop in price that's happened with solar that's been breathtaking, and has really changed the whole landscape tremendously. Now, unfortunately, we may have seen the best days of solar. Hard to tell, who can predict the future, but there's a trade war looming with China. China makes most of the solar panels that are put up around the world. And their government heavily subsidizes their solar industry. So they can offer solar way below what most American companies can do. The US government, the Commerce Department is addressing that now, and there will most likely be tariffs imposed starting in a month or two. So we may see solar start to come back up again. That's one factor. There's another factor at play in this also, and that Peter didn't quite touch on it, but the Clean Energy Development Fund is what offers the incentives for solar for Vermont companies and residences. And the pot of money that they have, that they designate for the state incentive for residential solar, they have proposed to do away with that at the end of this year. And that represents up to $2,500 in additional incentive for homeowners. So there's an urgency to this program that we just want to make sure people who are organizing it and involved in this understand. This may be the sweet spot right now to do this kind of a thing. Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think we're going to skip the PowerPoint, but Tom from RGS Energy, and thanks everyone for inviting us here tonight. I just want to get a quick feel. Are folks here because they're interested in becoming part of the steering committee, or because they're interested in doing solar for their own properties, or investing in solar? Or how many are here for their own properties? Okay, so you're here to learn something about solar, okay. And the rest are interested in becoming part of the steering committee, or volunteers with the program, or this is the first you're hearing about it, or?
Interested in learning about the program.
Okay.
You know, whether it's a farm or individual properties, or,
Gotcha.
you know, it's just in the beginning stages.
Right, okay, okay. Now I understand a little better. So I can draw a couple parallels to the programs that we're involved in now. I'm not really here to promote my own company, but really just to give some advice to help and shape this program. And I think it's awesome when we see a community get together and want to be organized, and this is the first step, and I think this is what it takes to launch this into the next stage. And like Peter said, we were involved in Putney. Putney's not so successful. There wasn't a lot of volunteers that stepped up and said, yes, we want to do this, and let's make this happen. So I think that the town there has a lot of potential, but I think it wasn't, the seed wasn't planted correctly. I think that's what happened. It got washed away by the rain. So I think we can give some advice to make sure that happens correctly in this situation. But one successful program we are involved in now is in Lyme, New Hampshire. And that's part of the Solarize Upper Valley program run by Vital Communities, which, as Tad mentioned, usually the successful programs have some money behind them. Vital Communities is running off a grant from the John Merck Foundation. And everyone pretty familiar with Vital Communities?
No.
The Upper Valley? Okay. They're a nonprofit organization that, how would you best describe them? They're
Multifaceted. They do a lot of work with energy. They do some poverty, economic issues, economic work. Good organization.
Yeah, bringing local businesses together and providing needs and services to people who need services. So,
Low-income weatherization, I think, is one of their programs.
yeah, true nonprofit, grassroots community. Yeah. So they're the organizers of that program, and it's run really, really well. So there's 3 communities involved. We happen to be involved with the Lyme community, is the smaller out of the 3 communities. And Lyme is actually doing very well. So we're approaching the deadline, which is Monday. I feel like I haven't slept in about a week. I told my boss, he will not hear from me the first week of July because I'm still getting calls. I'm still seeing new people these last 3-4 days of the program. And we just hit Tier 5 last night, which is the final discount. Great. Going really well, yeah. So we have, we're going to probably end up with between right around 40 projects sold in a town with 700 homes. So we think that's pretty successful. So
Dummerston has about 800 homes, so.
okay, yeah. So we can get there. I mean, we did we're really successful with some Solarize Western Mass programs. The little town of Williamstown, Mass, 81 projects in a 3 or 4 month time period, which I think is just incredible. And Peter mentioned Northampton. That's a little different animal. They're a bigger town. But what I would impart, I guess, as some advice is along the lines of what Tab was saying. I think we need a little, or you all need a little urgency in shaping the program because of a couple factors. There's the state incentive, which is really just a token now. It's 25 cents a watt, but it is there and it's available, and it maxes out at $2,500. And so $2,500 is nothing to sneeze at. That, as it stands now with the Clean Energy Development Fund's proposal, that goes away at the end of December. So that's going to be gonzo. So if, it has to be applied and reserved before the end of December, and then you still have 3 months to install it. So an installation could still fall into March and claim that incentive, but it needs to be reserved before December 31st. The other thing that is changing and I forget if it was, I think Smokey mentioned it first, the 6-cent solar adder credit from Green Mountain Power. So right now you're getting a credit, you're getting a retail credit for every kilowatt hour of solar production that you produce is 15 cents. And GMP is giving you that extra 6 cents on top of that, so you're actually getting a credit of 21 cents. If a system is installed before December 31st of this year, you're guaranteed that extra credit for the next 10 years. After December 31st, that guarantee is gone, and we're not sure what the new rate is going to be yet. They've hinted at it dropping to 5 cents, which is, no big deal, 1 penny. But when you look at it over, 10 years time, that does add up. Plus the guarantee of, the guaranteed 10 years when you're looking at your payback analysis is pretty big as well. So back to one more quick parallel. Vital Communities is organizing round 2 of the Solarize Upper Valley program now. They're now accepting applications for communities up until July 15th. Then they're sending the RFP out to the installers, which will take probably another month. But once the installers selected, they're going to be hitting the ground running probably August 15th. And their program end date is right now January 30th. At the installers meeting, we reminded them of these changes happening December 31st. So there was some talk of shortening it, but unfortunately some of the communities are going to be New Hampshire, which is a different set of rules than Vermont. So I'm just wondering if you all might be able to bring your timeline in a little tighter and set up maybe an RFP a little bit quicker before the end of July, say, as a reasonable goal, and get people getting site visits in August. Because our typical installation timeline for us, and I know every company is probably a little different, but 90 to 120 days. So if we're looking at a project in August, we're going to really need to push to get that installed by December 31st. And that's just not being busy, that's just how the whole process works between getting engineering done, getting the state incentive approval. We have to apply for the certificate of public good, which is basically your building permit, and then procuring the materials. So all that timeline stuff happens, over the course of 3 months or so. So I'd say if you want to get things kickstarted, it'd be good to get people signed up and start getting some site visits, in August. I guess one last thing I would like to mention about our company, because it has been brought up a few times tonight, and that's localness. We do use US-made modules. We just worked out this relationship with Solar World in Oregon. We had tried with other US manufacturers in the past, and wasn't always successful relationships. The manufacturing industry in the US is hurting. It really needs some more support from the government. I feel like we're a couple decades behind in where we should be. But Solar World is a good manufacturer. They've been around almost as long as us. We've been in business for 36 years. They've been around for 30 years. So they are a reliable company. And the other local product that we actually is made here in Vermont is in Waitsfield, and it's the EcoFasten. It's the roof fastening systems. And we actually send those to all our crews all down the East Coast, all the way to New Jersey. So I think we're one of their bigger customers. I don't know that for a fact, but and all our installers are in-house. And on the sales side, I personally live in Cabot, but we do have another rep right in Brattleboro, Pete Edling. He couldn't make it tonight. He's down with the in-laws at Cape Cod for the weekend. But Tad asked me to come down, and so yeah, we'd be happy to, I guess, serve in two facets: help continue to advise, outside of wearing a RGS shirt, and the other is we'd be honored to submit an RFP when it comes time, when you get there.
We have submitted a proposal already to the Energy Committee, so they have that.
Good. You're on the ball, man.
Sometimes. A couple other things. One, Smokey, great job on the explanation of what Solarize is. Well done. As good as I've seen a description of Solarize.
Yeah.
Continuing my earlier discussion about cost of solar dropping. It's reached a point now where the quote-unquote soft costs for solar are more than 50% of the total cost of installing solar. And so the Solarize program has come out of a desire to look at those soft costs and to reduce those as much as possible. So by soft costs, I mean advertising, marketing, what's called customer acquisition, engineering, permitting, these sorts of things. And the Solarize program does a beautiful job of shrinking those costs because it has a community of volunteers that go out and do that marketing for it. It's endorsed by the town, and then this group of people come together and make it happen. It's sort of like a bulk purchasing type of arrangement. And it works beautifully. It's taking off across the country. Started in Portland just 5 years ago, Portland, Oregon. I'm with Pete Edlin, who lives in Deer Ridge Farm in Guilford. He was one of the installers in the very first Solarize campaigns. So that was one thing I wanted to say about the soft costs. Peter Thurl talked a bit about a lot about sort of community solar versus on-home or on-site solar. And he gave his opinion about it, which is wonderful. I really like what he's doing with that, though there are other community solars, and I would encourage people to really look carefully at the different ones. He sort of brushed over the question of what the resale value is on solar panels in a community array. The fact is nobody knows. Nobody has a clue what those panels are going to cost or be able to be sold for because it's never been done. It's probably years away from the first ones being done. So that's sort of a crapshoot what one is going to get from that. What we do know, though, is that when people put solar on their house, the resale value goes up substantially. That has been documented. And it goes up more on average than what it costs to put the solar panels on the roof. It's a very strange phenomena, but the real estate market, they're very good at sort of charting those numbers. And it mostly in California is where that data comes from.
Yeah, actually, it was always sort of a gray area. We knew it added value, but we didn't know how much, and there were some different formulas out there, and a lot of research was done by Lawrence Berkeley Labs out of California. So the Department of Energy, U.S. Department of Energy actually stepped in and said, okay, let's standardize this. So the Sandia National Labs came out with a calculator last year that sort of standardized the value that PV adds to your home that is now used as a standard by real estate, or it's supposed to be by real estate appraisers and brokers. And as Tad mentioned, in some cases it adds more equity than your ultimate net cost after you reduce it by the incentives. So it's like an instant equity. And if you look at other home improvement projects, if you add a deck or if you add a fence or landscaping, do you get that dollar for dollar resale value right off the bat? Typically no. Sometimes you're lucky to get $1 for every 3 that you spend. So we're happy that that's been standardized. I had one more point on that, which was it actually it is funny, as Tad mentioned, because it actually appreciates over time. The first half of the life of a system, it actually appreciates because it's based on the savings that it offsets. And so the savings actually increase each year because the utility rates are going up. So you're actually saving more each year that you have gone PV. So that, therefore, it makes the value of the system actually appreciate. until it gets closer to the end of its useful life, which may be, after 20 years or so, that argument goes the other direction. It drops in value. The other side of it is the curb appeal. So you find somebody that is looking for a house with, generating its own clean power, or like when I was looking for my house, I wanted wood stoves. I found one with 2. So sometimes people raise the question: what if somebody doesn't want, solar panels on the property? So, is it somebody who wants to buy your house that you've invested in, or how many people are out there that don't want free electricity? It seemed like an odd question at the time, but
happens.
right, yeah. So it's the curb appeal helps the resale go quicker too, I think. So we're seeing a lot more homes get to net zero now with the combination of these new heat pumps that are out, and we're working with heat pump contractors here locally and around the state. So in combination with the solar, if you have enough space either in the roof or the ground in your own property, you can actually make your own home net zero and completely reduce your carbon footprint there. So seeing a lot more of that happening, especially in the past year. These heat pumps are accelerating, and they do use more electricity, but it's using it more efficiently than if you're plugging in space heaters all over your house. So that's exciting to see that folks are getting to this kind of net zero situation.
So, Dummerston Energy Committee has talked about the possibility of joining forces with other towns to do Solarize. Brattleboro Energy Committee will be discussing the proposal that we've submitted at the next Energy Committee meeting, which is July 9th, just coming up in 2 weeks. I'm also in conversations with Wyndham. I mean, tiny little town, but good, perched on top of the hill, so they've got good solar. And Guilford to a lesser extent, Whitingham, and Westminster. Others are possibilities. I think Newfane would not be too hard to approach, and possibly Townsend or Jamaica. So it would be wonderful if we could sort of aggregate and do a regional type of Solarize.
Is Brattleboro interested in?